for a lot of people out there that are resistant to maybe buying a business in their mind, they have a limiting belief. A lot of it comes down to the financing. They don't know that they can finance it or afford it, but that's not the reality. Most businesses are financed somehow, whether it's through the seller or through a bank. Why don't you, I mean, you've seen several different agreements out there, but a seller
Sure.
financing is fairly common, right? Where
Yeah,
they'll be
number
paid
one
out over
source
5 years, whatever.
yeah, well, I won't pick a time. It could be
Sure.
5 years, could be less or more, could be contingent on sales and earnings. But the number one source of financing for business sales is the selling owner. And typically, I mean, just what I've seen, they can be whatever you can arrange, but they'll get some level of cash. Let's say half the
Yeah.
value they get paid up front, and then the rest is on an earn-out, which sellers don't like. For the, what they'll say is, well, you'll run my business into ground, and then there won't be anything for me to take back, and you won't be able to pay me in.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing. So they have to have confidence in you too. But typically that's how it's done. Some portion is paid up front in cash at closing. Another portion is paid out over time. You can, now we're going to assume that your core business, your business is profitable. You're not struggling yourselves
Right.
and trying to acquire somebody to bail you out. But if you have a profitable business and they have, the company that you're acquiring has financials, you can say, hey, this is what they're doing now at their ratios, this man hours per dollar produced, production or whatever. But in my company, we're doing twice as well. So I'm going to take their sales numbers, but I'm going to bring them over and put my numbers against it and say, this is where we're going to go. People like the SBA, I mean, I know probably 5 in the last 2 years, the SBA will fund those kinds of acquisitions. And some of the down payment money can be what the owner, the seller, is carrying. So you can finance it. And it's a good idea. If you're financing to buy, you also finance to acquire some working capital, because there will be assimilation costs. And then if you're buying, let's say the acquisition doubles your sales, you're going to need twice the amount of working capital.
Right.
I mean, you just are. I mean, you can get more and more and more and more efficient, but still you're going to need more working capital. So you need to plan for that as you go forward.
Yeah, definitely. I think other advantages that we haven't really mentioned just yet is it is way faster to acquire a business and the customers and the employees and the talent and the systems and the machinery than it is to go and start from scratch and start that new location. And so being able to do that is a huge advantage, but then also you're also potentially reducing your competition.
Right. That depends on location and all that, but
Right.
the people that I'm thinking about in the last year are all buying out a competitor.
Right.
And so at least theoretically, well, it's more than theoretically, you're reducing your competition.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
you get that advantage as well.
Yeah. And how many times do we talk about the push through, where you're trying to grow your business and you're also trying to manage your capacity. And it's just this constant balancing act and headache of, okay, well, I got to grow sales, but then I've got to hire more employees so I can meet the capacity for the sales. And then I've got to have the employees so that I can sell. And it goes back and forth, back and forth. Well, in an ideal world, the advantage of growing by acquisition is that you're able to do both simultaneously and increase your capacity while increasing your sales.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and there are all sorts of potential advantages to save on overhead. Actually, you don't save on overhead, but you spread the overhead over more sales, more production.
Right.
So you can maybe quantify or consolidate your accounting methods, consolidate your sales efforts. And in one of these two that happened this week, the offers were made this week, they will shut down a plant of the acquired company and move everything into the plant of the acquiring company. Now, in their situation, they have the room to do that and the capacity, but that's a tremendous, utilities and lease payments.
Yeah,
tremendous
just that alone is
right
going
there.
to be a huge
Right.
save. Yeah.
Goes right to the bottom line.
Well, and not just to the bottom line, but to the value of the business, because the profit, you may have just doubled your profit by not paying utilities and lease and all that stuff. And now you have a higher, not multiple, but a higher value.
We've been talking about a 3 multiple. I'm going to just say 4 because the math's easier. But if you are saving $125,000 in lease payments and maybe another $100,000 in utilities, $250,000 for a multiple, you just made $1 million, added $1 million to the value of your company.
Yeah.
And so our listeners, we are aware that if a multiple, to realize the benefit of that, you have to actually sell your company, right? The fact that you have a piece of paper on your desk that says, wow, I just made $1 million, increased my company is $1 million. That's true, but that's where it starts, right? You have to be aware and say, man, I am managing for value, not just for profit. Profit is a part of value, but it's not, it's a fraction of the value.